What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday, and this is your Black Boy Joy Conversations. I am your host, Ryan Jones, and I am truly excited again tonight to talk about Black Boy Joy Conversations and so many other things. This is our 12th episode. Thank you so much for your continued love, likes, shares, and support. I am excited tonight to be talking with a very special guest. All of my guests are special, so let me say this. I know that sometimes you're like, ain't everybody special? All of my guests are special. Particularly those that come in and share their gifts week after week and share their joy, their Black Boy Joy. Black Boy Joy Conversations is all about celebrating the the journey, celebrating your joy, giving yourself unapologetic permission to be yourself and to be who you are and to celebrate your narratives and your strengths. So I am going to again say thank you so much for joining us, and those are logging in into the room. I'm not one to just do a whole lot of waiting. We're going to get straight into the conversation, get our guests straight on. I'm excited to have him. When last week we had Rob Leray, who has a version of Black Boy Joy, which is a beautiful song, one of my favorite chants. But when I first started the planning and plotting of this Black Boy Joy Conversations, I came in contact with a song Black Boy Joy, and by a particular artist by the name of Orlando Dixon. And one day I was in a super creative mode, and I thought, well, let me just see if I could just reach out to him, see if he would be interested in coming to the show. And lo and behold, we worked it out. He's with us tonight, and I've also got my Black Boy Joy gear from his store, Black Boy Joy Apparel, Black Boy Joy store. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to bring on our special guest, Orlando Dixon. He is a singer, songwriter, I believe, also, and he has been on NBC um, Voice. Oops, The Voice, right?
Yes.
Okay, I said it wrong earlier, but The Voice, and so I'm excited. He was a finalist on The Voice, and so you just been doing your thing.
Yes. Then first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you
No
for
problem.
wearing the shirt. We have on the same shirt, which I
Yep.
love. But yeah, I was on The Voice a few seasons ago. I was on Team Usher and got stolen to Team Adam. I made it all the way to the, I think, top 32 of my season, which was it was a really great experience. The year that I was on, every coach has a mentor. So the year I did it, Usher's mentor was Pharrell. So Pharrell, I had a chance to do a one-on-one when they sit you down and they do the one-on-one and they, just kind of encouraging you, pouring into you and having a conversation with you. That's probably one of the most poignant experiences of that, or poignant moments of that experience that I kind of took with me, because when I sat down with the both of them, they both had really encouraging things to say. And Pharrell, without even really having as much interaction with me as Usher, really poured into my life in a way that was like very spiritual, because he was
Wow.
talking things that I had not had a conversation with the show or him about. So I appreciated it. It was definitely what I needed. Before I had done that show, I had been singing professionally. Well, I started demoing and recording when I was about 12.
Okay. So you're not new to this. You've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a little while. I started singing when I was about 6 in church. I grew up in church singing.
Okay.
And I started competing in showcases when I was about 8, doing different like talent shows regionally, locally. And then I was approached about demoing, recording. My mom actually was approached about it at a particular competition, and we started getting into that. And then there's record deals and failed record deals, and all through high school, that was pretty much what I was pursuing. So when I went to college, I ended up doing a year at a conservatory, studied classical voice in high school. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just go do that in college. And I was like, I finished the first year and I was like, this is not for me. So I ended up transferring to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And it's a more contemporary based curriculum.
Okay.
So it just allowed me to kind of explore musically and artistically, more of kind of along the lines of what I wanted to do in my career. I was actually a music business major there. So I was concentrating on music publishing. I thought that, just as a fallback plan, if I needed to go into the workforce, that I would do it by way of this. I was this side. And I actually ended up, when I graduated, I had a temp job at this company called Sound Exchange, which is like one of the only companies that monitors webcasting royalties or webcasting services, so digital performance royalties. So they make sure that artists get paid for songs that get played on Spotify and on Pandora and on Tidal. And I worked there on an admin job for about a year when I was about 2. And when I left that job, I did a contract for about a year. When I left, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to be in an office. I want to be performing. And so I did a year. I want to say this is like 2012. I did a year of just like booking my own shows, and I was driving back and forth to Philly and driving back and forth to New York and just trying to make it happen for myself until I kind of got burnt out. I had exhausted every little money I had spent. And I was about to take a job at, I want to say I had just did an interview at like the Hilton.
Okay.
And, I remember going to New York the weekend before I got the call for the show and telling my friend, this is not how I saw my life. I didn't think that I would be doing the whole 9-to-5 thing.
Right.
I don't want to do it, but I don't know if singing is in the cards for me. I was very discouraged. I didn't want to sing anymore. And so when I got the call to do the show, it changed my life because I was really very, very close to walking away from music and walking away from a career as a working artist. And after the show, I started getting other opportunities. I started doing some background work for a couple of different artists. I was touring with K. Michelle. I was doing some work with Regina Bell. I actually did some writing on her project. I did some writing in Houston for some other artists on Music World. I did an independent project when I was 23 for this artist named Chris Walker, who had a hit out in the 80s. And then the song that I ended up writing for him went to, I want to say it peaked at number 17 on Board Urban AC. I was like 23.
Wow. Okay.
For me. And then things kind of slowed down. I started getting into that wave of like understanding when you are an entertainer or when you're working in the entertainment industry, it's synonymous with not really having a lot of stability.
Okay.
So that was my first wave. It was my first like, I'm climbing. And then things kind of stopped for years. And I was trying to figure out, well, what do I do? So I started performing locally. And then I made the decision to move to New York. And when I moved to New York, I moved there, was staying on my homegirl's couch in Newark, Jersey.
Okay.
For a few months. I got a gig on a cruise ship, left the cruise ship after a few months because I was like, this was fun, but I can't do this. Right. Like it's just the not being able to move when I wanted to move and be on land it was too much for me.
Right.
And so when I got off, I actually ended up getting an audition for the group that I'm in now with Disney Music Group. And it was a touring group that's actually ended up the project kind of evolved into us being an act on the label. I'm a recording artist signed to Disney as well. So that's kind of been my journey in a nutshell. And then in between all of that, so what really inspired in 2000, I want to say 15, into 2015, beginning in 2016, I started venturing into producing my own music.
Okay.
Up until that point, I had dabbled in it. It wasn't something that I felt like was in my wheelhouse. So I thought, let me give it a try. And I want to say this was right after Mike Brown.
Okay.
The incident with Mike Brown. And that was really what inspired Black Boy Joy. Put the song out. I didn't think anything of it. And I was trying to figure out how to revamp my own artist brand.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, this might be a good idea to turn this into some type of merchandise. I felt like I hadn't seen at the time that I had written this song. I think someone was likening Black Girl Magic to something like Black Boy Joy. That was how I heard the phrase. It wasn't popular. It wasn't on the internet. It wasn't everywhere. And so I felt very connected to it after I wrote the song, put it out. And I was trying to figure out how to translate it into something else. And I actually having a conversation with my mom, and I was like, I think I'm gonna, this is what I've been thinking about. These are these graphics I've been coming up with. This is what's in my head. I think it would be a great merchandise line for this song, and I can put it on my website. And my mom was looking through everything, and she said, I think you should make it a whole clothing line. I think you should go further with it. It shouldn't just be one thing, one design. I think you should go further with it. Maybe take some of the lyrics of the song and put those on there too, or maybe do something with the images, or maybe create your own images. And that's really what birthed the clothing line. I always say I started backwards, because usually as an entrepreneur, you are trying to focus your energy in a more structured way, and you usually do that by way of a business plan. And I didn't have one. I was just kind of going and yeah, just kind of seeing if it was something that would work. And when I launched it, I thought, okay, I'll try to do some mild promotion. I asked some friends of mine to come and be in the shirts, and I got another friend of mine to take pictures. That was how it started the first year. I was like, let me see if I can make this something, but I don't really know what it is. And then it kind of just went somewhere else. Over the last 2-3 years, it's kind of evolved into an opportunity for me to create a platform outside of my artistry, where I can also be an advocate for my community and share light and highlight and share my awareness and things I may not be able to do in my own artist space, or being able to marry the two is what I'm kind of moving into, this idea of being able to marry these two things together. So it's kind of shifted and become this different thing that I really appreciate. It took on a life of its own after allowing it to kind of be put out into the world. I kind of just let it go, and then it kind of grew into something. And so now I am understanding accepting and understanding the challenges that come with being an entrepreneur and a CEO. And, just on a more specific level, my business structure is a sole proprietorship. So I am the only person who's doing everything. I'm the graphic designer, and I'm also the social media manager, and I'm also the quality assurance customer service person. So it's a lot to juggle also while you're trying to build a career as an artist as well. Usually what other entrepreneurs who build businesses do is they invest their time on a fundamental level to understand those different aspects. So sometimes I feel very much like this is my baby, and I'm not always showing it love. And when I do show it love, I feel like my music is my baby, and I'm not always showing my music love. So it's a very interesting space to be in, I think, right now, as a creative, as a Black creative, as a Black artist, as a working artist, as a small business owner. Like, we're in a very interesting time because we have all the resources at our disposal. Maybe not all those things, financial capital and equity and those types of things do take time to build, but we really do have a lot of those tools kind of at our disposal. And I am one of those people that I can get overwhelmed with too many options.
So
it's been a journey. Like, I am finding my footing, and I think that is to bring things full circle. That's really what Black Boy Joy is to me. It's this experience that encompasses all these different things, all these different elements, all these different components of my experience as a Black man, and figuring out how to reconcile and balance all those things.
Right. So that's so powerful. When you got the call for NBC, what was, I guess, the feeling? Was this before you did Black Boy Joy or afterwards?
This was before.
Okay. So you got that call and you went through those different phases. What was the feeling? What was your thought process? Did you kind of feel like I made it, or is this that?
You do get a little, you think your life is going to change. I did.
Okay.
And my life did change. I mean, I thought it was going to be something.
I thought it was easier.
Drastic. Yeah, I thought it was going to be this drastic, like, oh my God, I can't believe that, I'm on this show. People are going to know who I am. And those things were true. But I don't know that I went into it expecting to get as much as I got.
Okay.
Definitely, I was in a space of self-doubt about my own talent.
Mm.
I was contributing to the world in the way that I wanted to contribute musically, artistically. I was in a space of self-doubt about that. So I didn't go in thinking that I was going to win.
Okay.
When I had the conversation with my mom, there was plenty of nights we would talk, as I was, on the show and I'm away from family and I'm checking in back home. And I tell my mom, well, I don't think I'm going to win, but I think this is a great opportunity. And my mom would go, why are you putting it out into the world? Why not? Why isn't your perspective that you are going to win? And I look back on those conversations now and I'm like, man, I really was not in tune with myself enough to want to see myself win. And not just in that circumstance, but just, that's a powerful statement. That was a powerful.
I want to unpack that statement really quick, but before you do that, I want to space special attention to some of our viewers that are watching us. Tamora, hey Robert, hey Dad. So excited you guys are with us. This is an interactive show, guys. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. But most importantly, comment. I'm excited to have my guest Orlando Dixon, creator of Black Boy Joy Apparel, but he's also a recording artist and singer and songwriter. And we're talking about his journey of Black Boy Joy. And you just made this amazing statement about self-doubt. And, you're on a national platform, a national stage. This is before your Black Boy Joy kicked in, and you're at this place of self-doubt. Like, how did you navigate through that? And the reason why I ask that is because I think, I'm not going to say for everybody, I'll say for me, um, that was one of the things I had a struggle with. And I don't say I've got even a good grip on it anymore, grip on it now. But it does come up where there is that self-doubt. And so how did you navigate that and putting that positive energy to know you're going to win?
I think that, identity has always been a very sorted experience for me. Connecting to who I am, and separating that from who others may see me as, the expectations that come with that, what's being projected onto me, and figuring out how not to take all that on or put all that on, to carry pick all those things up and make them mine. Those aren't all mine, people's expectations or projections don't have anything to do with me. And I think because for so long I have only seen, I have been working professionally since I was 12. So in my mind, that was what defined me. Music and success in that, being able to work and find sustainability in that was what defined me at that time. That was the only thing that I used as an identifier for Orlando Dixon. And not walking into that experience and not feeling whole in those things. I was broke. I did not have a job. I was trying to figure out what was next when I was coming on that show. So I was really just in a space of feeling like I was not connected to who I was. And that experience really enlightened me to that. If nothing else, it opened me up to this idea that, hey, you are not just this one thing. You can be all these many things, but you don't have to rush to be all these many things. And by that, I mean, for example, to contextualize this for you, when I went on the show, I was shying away from singing all the R&B songs because I didn't want to be the Black guy that was singing all the R&B songs. I don't know why I was like that. but that's what I was thinking. And so every song I got, I was like, I'm going to change it and I'm going to do this because I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. I can sing this way and I can sing this. And it was just too much at one time. Remember when I got stolen to Adam's team, he was like, you know, I love that you are inspired by so many things and that you want to showcase all those things, but you also have to know when to sit in the space that you're in. Like right now, if you're doing this song and you're taking this song and you're flipping it to be this more pop acoustic song, then it can't be pop acoustic, jazz, blues, gospel, hip hop, and it was like it's too much. It's overload. So you have to make a choice to stay where you are and kind of flourish in that space. And then once you master that, maybe going into, so it was this idea that, I don't have to like rush to prove that I can really, this idea that I need to be proving anything is false.
That was so, I mean, you're talking and so much is being said that's so powerful, even to the point I want to go back to you talking about the identity and not feeling whole. There's a belief or a subscription to a belief that we're all not necessarily whole, and then poof, you find yourself being whole. And then there's that subscription to belief that you're whole based upon, like you talked about, the accolades, the singing, the concerts, the making money, and
things.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to that where you kind of like you talked about that pivot, and how was that pivot for you? I guess contextualizing it, like when you pivoted to find yourself not being identified by what you do, but being, it being a characteristic of who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I had to, the pivotal point for me was, remember I was talking about that wave, right? So I had been touring. I got off the show. I've been touring for maybe up until that point, with the show and then the touring and then the extra work, it had been like maybe 2 years. And mind you, I'm like 24, 25. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm about to go into my 30s as a successful touring background artist. And that was not what it was. The minute work stopped, the minute work slowed down and things stopped. And it wasn't because of anything in particular other than it was just the timing. It was just timing. It was time for me to sit my ass down and chill. It was time for me to let go of, whatever gig I was on. It was the timing. And when that happened, I had to sit with myself, be introspective, had to be self-reflective. And honestly, I started reading this book. One of my best friends put me onto this book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Yes.
And that honestly changed my perspective because it triggered me. It started triggering things in me it started triggering and challenging me.
Okay.
It started triggering things in me that I had not acknowledged about my belief system. And it started challenging me to look at things completely different. The experience of God, the experience of life, the experience of what I choose to identify as what makes me successful, what makes me happy, how I create in the world, what I put out, what I am experiencing. Things are not always happening to me. And that was the shift. It was because the minute I started doing that, I started being grateful. I started sitting in gratitude in the spaces that didn't feel comfortable.
Good stuff, yeah.
That was really for me where I got connected to this idea of Black Boy Joy. I mean that coupled with what was going on in the world, right? Again, you have, I want to say, Mike Brown was, I think, late 2014. Trayvon was right before that. Andrew Bland, I think, was 2015. So there were also very pivotal things that were happening in the world that I was relating back to my experiences in school. You know, I went to school in Boston.
Okay.
And then, you know, it wasn't a very nice place to me as a Black person when I would go out and I would be around other people that didn't look like me. I also was coming from DC going to Boston. So I had not been out of, you know, when I was growing up in DC, DC was Chocolate City.
Yeah.
It really was. So like that, I'm you know, I'm coming out of that experience. And so as again, going back to where things are pivoting and shifting for me, I was coupling these experiences that I'm seeing in the world with things I had experienced that I didn't realize were mildly traumatic, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really identified with that, you know, though experiencing prejudice and racism on a like very, you know, face to face is happening level in your early 20s while you're away in college. You sometimes you know what to do, sometimes you know you don't know what to do. Sometimes you know how to respond, sometimes you don't know how to respond. And moving into this space of understanding adulthood on a different level when you get older, and then also this shifting happening on the inside of me, it was awakening something in me. It was making me go, you know what? I'm not just this. When people see me, they don't just see, oh, he just sings and he's an artist, because that's what I was used to.
Okay.
You know, not just me identifying as that, but people identifying me as that. It's like, no, people see me and they may see something else, and that may be attached to something that I can't control. Well, I can't control. That's attached to their fear. That's attached to their stigma. That's attached to whatever. But I have to figure out how to navigate.
This is good. This is good. I say this is good because, you know, I mean, it's good stuff. It's true. And thank you for sharing. When you navigated through the journey of the racism, and how do you feel like that shows up? You know, that was what, 5, 6, 7 years, almost 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you would think after the song, after Mike Brown, after Trayvon, after Sandra, after Ahmad, you know, God's sake, I mean, God knows, you know, after George Floyd, you think that we would make it out of 2020 without, but we had to happen this week.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like that prepares you or that navigates you through today? Your experience from then, you know.
I think that it informs me that that energy exists, and to be completely honest, this is a conversation that I have with my family a lot. I think that energy is going to exist. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be a contrary energy. But the dichotomy of life is that this opposite thing and this opposite thing can literally sit in the same space.
Yes.
That is literally, that's just what it is. Again, it's literally the dichotomy of life. And so there will always be something contrary, but those things are there to, you know, the way I view it, the lens I look at it through is that is there to inform me about what types of choices and decisions I want to make, because now that I know that that exists, do I want the opposite? Do I want something in the middle? Do I want that thing? If I'm saying I don't want that, then what do I want? And then how do I move and channel my energy, my frustration, my anger, my emotions, my all of that? How do I focus that and channel that into a space that is productively and creatively and actively getting me what it is I want to experience? So for me, it's shifting my focus and saying, you know what, it's okay that I'm not always working on a track today. I think I want to go and figure out how to expand my clothing line, because my clothing line is more than t-shirts on somebody's back. I am now able to take this business and align with charitable organizations, or say, you know what, I want to highlight this, or you know what, I want to move into this space. I want to create this type of platform with this. So this is how I'm channeling and putting this energy into the world. And it's okay if it feels like it's a seedling. I think people get caught up on, this idea that it needs to be an extravagant effort.
Mm.
When you think about change, people feel like it needs to be like throwing this big ass boulder into the ocean and it's got to make a splash like that. And it's like, no, you literally can have a pebble and start there. Like the thing about the water is that like literally as soon as you touch it, it ripples.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's this again, a lot of my life as an adult is unlearning and relearning
Yes.
what my value and belief and moral code is for me, not what was told to me, not what was projected to me, not what was taught to me, because I'm not saying that there's a right and wrong in that. Those things are relative to perspective. But I know in my own life that my experiences, a lot of things I've been taught have been taught to me by people who was taught to them, and it was passed down to, you know what I mean? So for me, it's figuring out, no, what decision am I making about what I believe about this?
And what do I value, and
What
how
do I value?
You talked about showing up or responding, which is so poignant because I just was talking to someone earlier today, and I said, life happens to us, and we can either let it happen to us, or we can, like you said, use it to just let it be life. And navigating through that, and like I think you mentioned earlier, you talked about just the traumas and how that you have to stop looking, the victim mentality, but more so looking at yourself and creating this opportunity. Like you said, you put your energy in creating something for your brand or new music or something. You find yourself doing that. How do you balance that? Because I think about something you just said when you talk about good and you didn't say these words, but I'm gonna just paraphrase it. Good and evil. There exist. How do you balance that? You've got all this negativity and this energy out there. How do you keep your energy level at a constant flow and just flowing?
I think what I do is I have to take a lot of space and time to be by myself. So what I'm realizing, and this is a recent realization, I have to have space to myself. I have to, because I tend to take on other people's energies and their thoughts and the way that they do things. And I then draw conclusions based on things that I'm taking on and then start projecting. And there's a whole process of not reconciling that happen. It's a lot of pushing down instead of going, oh, why am I taking this person's energy on? I was having a good day. I walked into the room and I'm not really feeling, the energy I was feeling when I walked in here. And somehow I've allowed that to be my energy. And I'm not taking a moment to go, hold up, why am I? Because I was cool before. What's the disconnect, and what can I be doing to make sure that? So it's a lot of self-checking, a lot of self-checking, a lot of self-check-ins. So I'm having to check myself and also check in with myself. I don't really find that it serves me and my best self, or my effort to be my best self, to put so much energy into trying to, I don't know, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but I try not to put a lot of energy into worrying about balancing consideration and also when it's okay to be selfish and take your time. I also don't find a lot of shame and guilt and accountability either. So a lot of the ways that I take my own power back for myself is being kind to myself and owning that I'm, when something is when I've made a misstep, or if I feel like, okay, that happened and I didn't think that was going to happen, or maybe I'm deeming that as that was the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing, that landed the wrong way. But instead of beating myself up over it, which is what I've conditioned myself to do, I'm learning to be kind to myself and the things that I say to myself. And that's why that time for myself is important, because there's so, like you said, there's so much going on externally that is seemingly very chaotic and very negative and very heavy. And you feel very, for me, sometimes I feel very disempowered. And I need that space, that moment to check in, self-check-ins and self-checking, to check on myself so that I can center myself, you know, really find that equilibrium. And for me, a lot of that is found in gratitude, just being able to say, like, thank you, you know, okay, this is happening, but this is also happening, you know? And it could be something as simple as, like, what happened this week is happening. Like, there's no denying that. And it's heavy. And it goes back to what you were saying. It's like, you would think that we would make it through at least the end of the year without not another one of these on this scale. I mean, Breonna Taylor's murderer still ain't being locked up. You know, we're still there. But at the same time, my mom is healthy. My sister is healthy. My family as well. And I have to honor those spaces too. So that honestly is what gives me the equilibrium. Just being able to honor that exists too. I can hold space for that too.
You know, that's so powerful, because I think when I look at that statement you're making, I look at just our joy, you know, our joy. And that's what that is for me. You know, I think joy is like a river. It flows and you got to feel it. You know, it's up to you to be intentional to feel it. And how you just mentioned, you feel it. You're becoming cognizant or grateful. And, you know, the biggest thing you said, being kind to yourself. I don't know if people realize how important that is, to just be kind to yourself. Being yourself is so incredibly important, because we're taught, unfortunately, not to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah, I think we there's a conditioning that we undergo by way of I can't even really get to you know, I'm somebody who really tries to do their best to give everything and every person the benefit of the doubt, but I can't tell you why we are conditioned the way that, well, I have my theories, but I'd rather not push those things out onto people.
What is your theory? Because I have my theory as well. So what is your theory?
I mean, there's so many. We can talk about it on a philosophical level. We can talk about it on a spiritual level. We can talk about how religion has come in to do those, to kind of tamper with that. We can talk about it on a societal level, on a social level, on an economic level. This idea that power is what drives you, and if you have power, then you are the mightiest, and power has now become synonymous with money, and if you have money, then you're powerful, and money has become synonymous with success, and if you are successful, then you have money and you're powerful, and so success becomes synonymous with happiness, and if you're really happy, then you're successful, and you have a lot of money, you have a lot of power, and you have a lot of influence in the world. And there are entities in the world that exist. I don't know the origin of their existence, but they exist and thrive off of the idea that if I continue to drive that home for everybody, then I can be the person in control and I can be in power. I mean, if you look at how religion has ruled people, if you look at how money has ruled people in this country, we call it capitalism. But here we are in a space, in an era where capitalism is literally sacrificing the lives of people.
Yes.
So, you know, like, is that really something that we still subscribing to? Do we really, you know, do we have to unpack that? And that is,
if you don't believe in capitalism, then you are a socialist, which is complete left.
Right. It's like, I can't say, and that's the other thing. It's like all or nothing. We're in this space of all or nothing, where it's like, oh, if you don't believe that, then you must believe this. And it's like, no, there's a spectrum to thought. There's a spectrum to thought on every level. Just like there's a spectrum to identity, there's a spectrum to gender, there's a spectrum to music, you know, good and bad, right and wrong. Those things are relative to what people's spectrum of thought is, right? That's why the morality of this country is in such turmoil, because we try to say this is okay and this is right, but you know what? No, that ain't right. Now, you know what? It all circumstantial. It's all circumstantial. It's like what works over here may not work over here, but you know what? Today I believe it's right. Tomorrow I believe it's wrong. You know, it's just all over. And so that's when that's what we are collectively as a human race putting out into the world. That's the energy we vibrating on. That's why we get back a lot of the experiences that we have. They manifest themselves in the way that they do. You know, and that's what I believe. You know, I'm not pushing that idea on anybody, but that's what I believe on a fundamental level. We have the president that we have because during that time when we could have made a decision, everybody was like, well, I'm not gonna make a decision because it's really not gonna matter anyway. This idea of neutrality, of y'all not doing anything and everybody sitting in the middle, is what got us here. And then on top of that, there's this thing, right, where you, if you're not doing your self-check-in, you're trying to trick your mind. You're trying to trick your soul to believe what your mind is saying. So it's like I'm sitting up here saying like, oh, I'm not going to vote because I don't feel like it, or I don't believe in this because but really
doesn't matter. My vote's not going to be counted.
Really on the inside, you are vibrating fear. So everybody's vibrating fear.
And you're telling yourself that your voice doesn't matter and what you feel or your thoughts aren't going to be counted. So then you continue to and you project that and you mirror that.
Yeah, that's what manifests. The universe is literally just a mirror of what we're putting out into the. I genuinely have seen that in my life. I genuinely have seen that in my life. That's why I believe that. You know, and you call it a higher power, call it God. I would never take anything away from, you know, whatever identifiers people need to connect to their own power. But literally, that is what we experience is what we're putting out. And so it's like, if you're telling yourself your voice don't matter, and that's the energy you vibrating on, that's what manifests. That's what you end up experiencing, is that this idea or this experience that I don't matter, that I'm disempowered, that my voice doesn't matter. And so I think that, going back to what we're talking about, this conditioning, it requires acknowledging that, hey, I've been conditioned to think this way. Do I really feel this way?
And is this what I'm thinking, or is this really how I feel? Like, start to feel what you feel, you know, and get through it. You know, I'll never forget someone told me that, and I just was like, feel what I feel. And, you know, my consciousness or my thoughts or how I've been conditioned immediately rejected that, because it's like, what do you mean? I'm feeling what I feel, but it's like,
of course I feel that. Of course I'm telling you, I feel what I feel. And it's like, no, but are you moving through that? Because there are layers to your emotions. You're not just sad just because you woke up sad. Unpack that.
Yeah.
Like, why are you feeling that way? And move through that, and not move. Don't just fight to move past it. Move through it.
So when you talk about your personal time and, you know, spending time with yourself as how you center yourself, Robert, I want to go to some of our questions, guys. Really great conversation. Robert, my brother says good stuff. Highlight, sorry. He says it's good stuff. Cousin, hey, Ramona. But Robert had a question that was, you answered it, but I just want to make sure that, you know, I wanted to bring it up to you how he posed it. What would you give new brand builders as far as removing the noise? And I wanted to just kind of unpack, but then tie that together with the statement when you talked about spending time with yourself and the importance of that. For somebody that's newly branding themselves, and, you know, you've been doing, you talked about singing since 12.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this, somebody that just started singing, they're out. Oh, I'm going to get a contract, a record contract. And, they don't get it. They become disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
You were a finalist in on the show, but you didn't win.
Right.
So you could have taken that and just was like, well, forget world, and I'm giving up and turning my back. But it just seems, you mentioned it was just a part of the highs and lows, the ebbs and flows. So how do you, I guess, tell someone or encourage someone to not be caught up on the wins or the as we talked about earlier, what you do?
This timeline, I think, detach yourself from expectation. Like that's the biggest thing that I did. Stop trying to do it in whatever timeline that you're giving yourself for when you're supposed to have it, how it's supposed to happen. What do you think it's supposed to be? What is it supposed to look like and feel like? To like literally detach yourself from that and create something different, create something new. It's like, okay, if I've detached myself from all expectation, what does that give me? Freedom, the free thought to create something completely different. So maybe it's not, I didn't win this thing, so clearly I'm not good enough, or I don't need it, or I'm not, this isn't it for me. Maybe it's not any of those things. Maybe it's, oh, this was supposed to happen. I called this to myself and I didn't even realize it, because what did I gain from this experience? Wow, this has now elevated my thought. This has now elevated my vibration. I'm on a different space. And then boom, here's this whole other opportunity that's now been called to myself because I was ready for that new thing, because I had a new thought about a new thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. It's one, not being attached. So when you checking in on yourself, you're making sure you're not attached to something that's fluid.
Yeah.
Being, letting it be bendable,
Yeah.
Because, what would have happened if you had in your mind thought, I'm gonna make it big, I'm gonna blow up after being on the show.
Right.
And then you didn't.
Right.
Would your,
I would have been disappointed. And when you're talking about specific to, I think it was Robert's question, when you're talking about building a brand, like you have to leave space for creativity to be organic. Even when you building a brand on when you're talking about it from a business perspective, there's only so many I's that you can dot and T's that you can cross, right? Yes, there's a process to everything when you talk about structure from a business perspective, when you talk about process from a business perspective, but you do have to leave room for something organic to happen. I mean, and I'm biased when it comes to that because I am a creative and I'm a performer, and I'm often in spaces where if I don't leave that space for something organic to happen, I know what it feels like. It doesn't feel authentic, doesn't feel genuine. It feels over rehearsed. It feels super calculated. But I think when you're talking about building a brand, especially if like when you're thinking about your mission statement, whatever the mission statement is, the core value of any entity, brand, business is to provide a service or create a space for someone else, for something else, and you have to leave space for creativity. So I think detaching yourself from expectation allows you more freedom to do that.
How do you feel like how do you feel like you are more creative? What gets your juices flowing and become?
Well, right now, I mean, it's a weird time for us as for the artist community.
Yeah.
They opening everything up but the theater. They opening everything up but the stage. They got the bar, they got the restaurants open, but they're not letting people go to shows. They're not letting people, so it's a very a lot of us draw from that space. A lot of us in the artist community draw from that space of being connected to people, knowing that you are providing a service and that it's not just entertainment. You're literally, for some people in those spaces, for a lot of times when people go out to see shows and they go out to be entertained, they are looking to fill a void. It's like, I need to get happy right now. I need a distraction because I need to get filled up. I need to get inspired. We can feel that as artists. So right now it's been a challenge. It's like really just kind of leaning on different things that I hadn't leaned on before. A lot of that is my friends and my family. I'm inspired by conversations that I'm having right now, similar to this, about, you know, the reimagining of the world, but also I apply that to my own life. It's like, oh, the reimagining of my own world too. Like same way we're reimagining the justice system and what that looks like. I'm applying that to my own life. And that's kind of what gets my creativity going, is this idea that, okay, I'm kind of reinventing my life right now. I get to create something different. And I didn't even think that that was something, you know, I was on a trajectory that I thought was successful and I was doing really well. And, you know, but now instead of me looking at this like, whoa, everything's come to a halt and I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm looking at it like, oh, I get to reimagine this. And it's a challenge, but it's also fun figuring out like, ooh, okay, this is how I ran my business before. Now I gotta run my business different. What does that look like? Oh, this is how I created music before. Okay, now I gotta create different. What does that look like? This is how I used to perform. I used to be around all these different people and in arenas and all that. Well, now I gotta contextualize it completely different. And instead of me looking at it like, man, I just don't know, I'm looking at it like, okay, I don't have all the answers yet. I don't have it all figured out yet. I haven't figured out my groove yet, but I know it's coming. So let me take my time. Let me dispel what I think the timeline should be.
Yes.
You know, this week I wasn't as productive as last week. That doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. That doesn't mean I'm not grinding. I'm not hustling. I'm not, you know, instead of it being all those different things, I'm training my mind, unlearning and relearning how to look at it different.
And being present, because what you mentioned about what you're not doing, you know, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and going back to being, you know, being grateful, you know, like you said, you know, you may not be able to be in a stadium, but your mom is healthy.
Yeah.
You know, we're losing so many others, but you've got this, you've got that, you know. And so focusing not so much as on the losses as much as we focus on the wins, or, you know, like you said again earlier, just, you know, finding something to be grateful for. And you know, I challenge myself because we're in a society where it's hard to find something to be grateful for. You know, I can sit up and watch CNN all day.
Yeah.
And think about, oh, the world is such a tragic place. But then how do I filter this? How do I filter this as information for me to make a decision? Example, I'm watching the RNC this week. Some people are not watching it. I'm watching because I want to be able to not necessarily just filter because of my choice of my candidate, but I also want to hear and the trajectory and the thoughts and what the other side is leaning on.
Yeah.
You know,
there's nothing wrong with wanting a balance.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's really like, you know, the idea of like live and let live is like a very real thing to me. It's like, why am I bothered by you wanting to have balance? You wanting to feel like, you know what, I have made a decision, but this decision has now also made me interested in knowing, well, what is this other thing? What is this other side saying? You know, I'm interested, even if that's on just a very basic level. I'm just interested. I'd like to know. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
And for me, I'm not sure if I was on the show when I said it, but you know, I look at somebody like Trump, and you know, that particular party, and I'm looking at, you know, they're in their own world. They're in their own bubble. They only see the only good that they've done. They're not seeing the reality everybody else is seeing. So, you know, I draw inspiration from that because it says, if I could start seeing, like you talked about earlier, if I can imagine my world being different, if I can start seeing things how they see it, you know, the success I would be, you know, like somebody posted a video this week and they said, you know, I wish people would stop leaning in on the belief that everything comes from hard work. Success is only attached to hard work. That was the paraphrasing. And I thought, wow, you know, it's exposing yourself to the belief that you deserve and that you believe and all this, because you can have people that are hardworking that are, you know, and as the political person said, if hard work was the only way that leads to success, then everybody that works hard will be successful.
Right.
You know, but I got to thinking, like, if I'm working hard, but if I don't have if I have limited self-belief, you know, I am canceling out my hard work. If I'm working hard and if I have I'm not creating the imagination, or I'm not taking, you know, for me, I sometimes have to remind myself, yo, take a break, you know, like
Exactly.
lay on the couch, you know, or do something different.
It's like you said, be present.
Yeah, because if you're not, then you are just constantly going. And I realized in my life that there are spaces and times I haven't even been. One of the and I don't believe in regret. One of the things I look back and reflect on is the countless times where I wasn't present when something I wanted happened.
I know that experience.
I wasn't present. Like, and I think about it and I was like, you know, if you ask me how did I feel, what was I feeling, and what the air smelled like, but when something bad happened, I can tell you what I had on. I can
How that whole day went.
Yeah.
Whole day went, how it went down. In moments where I haven't been present, the biggest for me, the common thread was I was complaining. I was complaining. I wasn't just not present. I was also complaining about, well, I was so focused on what I didn't have that I wasn't like really present and realizing what that the thing that I wanted was there.
What I do have.
Yeah. Again, I was caught up on expectation. It should look like this. Well, it doesn't look like this. So this must not be what it is. And, you know, and then there's this, and then there's also this, and then there's this. I'll never forget this. I was on my first tour and, you know, I didn't, without saying too much, I wasn't getting paid on time.
Okay.
I remember calling home a few different times, and my mom used to always say, "Are you having a good time though? Are you enjoying yourself?" And I would be going on these rants, you know, I can't believe I ain't got so and so and so and so in my house, and I ain't got this, da da da, blah blah blah. And she's like, "And that's all, baby. I get it, but are you enjoying yourself, and are you having a good time? Because this is what you asked for. You wanted to be working." You wanted to go places you haven't gone before, but I was so caught up. And then, listen, it's not to say that to diminish that thing was happening or to excuse that thing was happening, but I really could have put my energy in a different space. I could have been more present and said, you know what, that's going to work out. I'm going to get that figured out. But that doesn't need to be that doesn't need to get all of my energy while I'm in this experience.
It's not the end. It's just a means to an end. Like, you know, I've been in a situation where, you know, those that know me, my family know me, one day I just said, I'm moving to DC, you know, Texas. And I didn't really have anything. Just I decided to move. And, you know, looking back over it, I'm afraid to go down the street now sometimes. Like, I got to have all these checks and balances. Like, I ain't got this, I ain't got that, you know. I'll be joining, you know, you guys tomorrow at the march. Shout out to all those that are in DC for the march during the circus, the RNC circus. But you know, I was attached to it being one way 6 months ago when I first got my ticket. Now it's all plans have been obliviated and so forth. But I thought about it. I get to share an experience that some people wish they could have shared it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even, and I always say this, with the Black Boy Joy conversations, when I first started this, I only wanted to do one live and the rest of them were going to be pre-recorded podcasts and stuff like that, because I wanted to be perfect and controlled and not be creative. And it's fun to be what it is now. And I reflect on, what if my perfectionism really, if I allowed my perfectionism or me to really get in the way, how I could have stopped something or somebody else. I'm grateful, I'm watching it, or when we release the show, whatever, I don't sometimes even go back and check the analytics, because it's like, you know what? We put out a great conversation and content.
Right.
I'm even it's like,
it felt great. It felt good. It felt authentic. It felt like it was what it was supposed to be. I'm the same way usually with like my own social media stuff. Like I don't really like to, and it's a very when as an independent artist, or as a I don't see myself as a public figure, but I guess that's
you are the blue hashtag. You got you verified.
But like I try not to get caught up on those things, because I'm like, hey, a lot of times I'm putting out things that I feel like they resonate with me, and that other element moves me into this space of perfectionism, and it's like, well, maybe I need to control it more, or I need to okay, this many people saw it and I'm getting this many impressions, and this is what's helping. Now when it comes to my brand, when it comes to the clothing line, it's a different thing. But even in that, I'm trying to figure out a balance of not allowing it to drive, not let it be the focal point of my business. I've seen businesses thrive where they are able to have a balance of respecting, business code and business practices, while still honoring, their mission, which is to connect with people and to put out something authentic. So I know that it's possible. But I say all that to say I'm the same way. It's like this idea of like, once it's out there, especially if it's something that feels good, especially if it's something that, I thought it was gonna look this way, and then it totally surprised me by looking this way, or resonating with people in this way.
Yeah. Like, so you just released a brand new project. We didn't get to it yet, but we're gonna talk about it. The When Summer Comes.
Yeah.
Guys, do me a favor, like it, subscribe to it, stream it. This brother, he hasn't even talked about this project. We
just been talking.
We've been having great conversations. So his energy is good. So When Summer Comes is an amazing project. One of my favorite songs on this project is Grateful, of course. But tell us a little bit about this project and the body of work that we're talking about, how you just and I before I said I want to say this, because you said something earlier. What I'm learning about branding or brand building is slow and steady.
Mm-hmm.
If you are slow and steady, you build up momentum versus trying to do what everybody else wants you to do, and being sensational, or what's the word, going with what society and everybody thinks you should do. Your music, and where I'm talking about is when you talked about earlier how you didn't want to be R&B.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that one of the mentors on the show said, pick a lane, be pop, what are you gonna do? But you're trying to be R&B, blues, gospel.
Too much. You're trying to do too much. That's basically what he's saying. He was like, you're trying to do too much, and you need to figure out what you're trying to do. Like, and I didn't know what I was trying to do. I just knew what I wasn't trying to do. Right? I was trying to literally be the opposite of what was natural to me, which was so crazy to me. Like, still I think about that moment. So when people ask me about going on that show, the reason it was so life-changing for me is because I'm like, y'all have no idea where my head was at that time. I really didn't think I was a great singer. I really wasn't feeling what I was doing. Like, I just wasn't feeling myself. And so to be on a national platform like that, it was it was a lot. So my journey in music has honestly been a lot of it's been me, my career honestly as a professional musician has been a lot of it me going for it on my own. I have a business manager, but I don't have a personal manager. I don't have an agent. So a lot of the gigs that I've booked have been things that I've either gotten through someone referring me, or things that I've negotiated on my own.
Okay.
When it comes to creating, I did an artist grant project in 2014 where I qualified for an artist grant, and the prize was that you get a week to record with these songwriters and producers in house, and anything you create goes on the album. And it was a really great experience, but I had never done anything on my own, produced my own, wrote my own, engineered and mastered and mixed myself, because those aren't things I readily feel like are in my wheelhouse. Like, I am a musician, but I'm not an engineer, so I had never really wanted to move into that space. And I think as someone who isn't necessarily chasing a record deal, because I've had a record deal, I had to figure out what that looked like for me for a little while. So, I released, I think my last musical project that I released was Black Boy Joy in 2016. Is my first full body of work in 4 years. And I was inspired because I wanted to release this fear that I had, that if I stepped into this space that I wasn't familiar with, that people would be comparing me to something that I couldn't live up to. I did not necessarily want people saying that I was a producer, because I'm like, well, no, I'm not a producer. I am a songwriter. I write songs, and I've written songs for other artists, and I've been successful in that, but I'm not a producer. So that was holding me back from just trying my hand at it. And I think with the way everything happened with COVID, I was kind of in a space where I was like, oh, well, I'm not about to be working. I literally have all the time to really sit down and figure out kind of what I want to create for myself. That's where the project started. And so I just started producing things, and I started writing things. And before I knew it, things were shaping up into this particular cohesive sound, this particular cohesive body of work. And then when summer just came, because I kept thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna get a summer this summer. 17 times just now, but I don't know if we're gonna get a summer. So I'm like, I wonder what it would be like if I created my own soundtrack to my summer. This is what this song is making me feel like. This is making me feel like with the top down, I'm driving and I can see the sunset. This song is making me feel like if I was in Cali right now. This song is making me feel like if we was out on a Friday night, and it's been a long week, and when all of my friends get together, and we know it's been a long week, and we know we about to get lit, and we about to turn up. So that was where I was coming from. And Grateful was really inspired by everything that was happening after, I guess, in the midst of everything happening with George Floyd. That's where Grateful was birthed. There was so much going on, and I felt like between the pandemic and that, and I'm grateful that we're in this space of acute awareness in this country, but also just I was feeling this sense of just like, well, why now is everybody waking up and realizing that Black people ain't been lying? We've been saying that, you know what I mean? And I had to sit myself down, move through those feelings. I literally started waking up in the morning and just talking to God, naming the things before I literally get out of bed. When I open my eyes, naming the things I'm grateful for. Ooh, I'm up now. Thank you, God. Because what I usually would do is, as soon as I open my eyes, start thinking about, okay,
what you have to do.
need to be getting up and doing this. And, wow, okay, this COVID thing is lasting way longer than I thought it was going to last. So what am I going to do? Okay, now I need to be applying to this grant. I need to be applying to this thing. And I need to be. So I stopped. I shifted my energy completely because I was like, this is aggravating my anxiety. I'm being triggered before I wake up. And so I go through the day feeling like, okay, I'm not doing enough. Or am I doing enough? Or God, I feel overwhelmed. I can't, I was like, let me stop.
You wake up triggered.
Yeah, I wake up triggered. So I was like, let me get back to this space of gratefulness and gratitude. And that's really where that song came from. That whole song is kind of what I was feeling like. The world is on pause. I was feeling like, I don't know if am I going to be able to make ends meet? But you know what? I have to get up and I got to keep trying. I have to stay positive. I need to be focused on a way to stay stable. You know what I mean? Because life is lived. And for me, it's a reminder, life is only half the situation you make it. Like, I am also involved in what I'm experiencing. Like, everything's just not happening to me. The things that are outside of me that I can't control, they are what they are. But I can make a decision about what I feel and what I think about those things. How I frame that's my power.
Wow, that's amazing. And that was so powerful because that's where your power is.
Yeah.
In that gratitude. Guys, I want to play the song really quick before we go. Grateful, if it's my favorite song, so I'm gonna play my favorite song off of the track. Guys, please go out and try to not try, but download.
Yeah, it's everywhere online. I just hit over 200,000 streams on Spotify.
Nice.
But it's on Apple Music, it's on Pandora, it's on Amazon. I think it's on YouTube. I got it. It's out everywhere. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Whole world's on pause. It's like we're never going nowhere. 2 steps ahead, we'll be right back where we just started. Time feels so lost. Seems like the days turn into weeks. Life's like a record playing on repeat, and I'm feeling like I really need. So get up, get up, get up. Keep trying. I gotta get up, get up, get up. Keep smiling. I know it's real hard, it's tough. Keep striving. Felt so in the way that I'm praised enough. I gotta keep my head up. I'm trying to focus on a way to stay straight. Life's only half the situation. I'm gonna do the best I can when I'm here. 'Cause I'm grateful, so grateful. Grateful, so grateful. I'm trying to focus on a way to stay straight. Life's only half the situation, babe. I'm gonna do the best I can when I'm here. 'Cause I'm grateful, so grateful. Grateful, so grateful. What's gonna happen if it turns out me? I'm feeling like I don't know. I'ma land on my feet, yeah. Second guessing on my blessings, 'cause it's gotta get better for me. Life's like a playing on repeat, and I'm feeling like I really need to get up, get up, get up. Keep trying. Yeah, I gotta get up, get up, get up. Keep smiling, yeah. I know it's real hard and stuff. Keep striving. Helps on the way that I'm brave enough. I gotta keep my head up. I'm trying to focus on the way to stay straight. Life's only half the situation. I'm gonna do the best I can when I'm with you. 'Cause I'm grateful, so grateful, grateful, so grateful. I'm trying to focus on the way to stay safe. Stay safe. Life's only that situation, baby. It's all what I'm ready to hear the best I can when I'm with you. 'Cause I'm grateful, so grateful, grateful, so grateful. Grateful, so grateful, grateful, so grateful.
I love it. I played that song probably about 5 or 10 times today. And I'm trying to create this little groove for myself, whereas staying present and staying grateful. Because let's just be honest, being grateful all the time is not easy.
No. That's the you know, the I don't know. I feel like that's the beautiful part of life is figuring out it's okay. Like having the realization that, oh, it's okay that it's not always. I'm not a blind optimist. I'm not somebody who's just always walking into things going, we just gotta, hey, that happened and hey, but it's okay because we just gotta. No, it's like it's this idea, the thing that I may not be naming as I'm grateful for, I'm actually grateful for. I needed this moment of contention or this moment of conflict to illuminate to me that, you know what? I didn't need that. You know what? That happened and that's cool. This just made me realize that. That's the beauty of gratitude is that it's not just, it doesn't look like this to me. It doesn't look like this one thing of just saying thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you. A lot of times gratitude is, wow, that happened. Okay. That happened. That person showed me who they were.
Yep.
Situation manifested itself in the way that it did. And cool. You know what I mean? That's gratitude too. Being able to acknowledge that thing showed me something. That it enhanced me. That thing that I'm looking at as a loss, actually everything's a win. Whoa. What if I really started just framing that everything, church folks say, everything's working for my good.
Right.
That's what that is. It's like framing your mind around this idea that oh no, everything's actually empowering me and sharpening me and making me more aware and making me more accountable and giving me more power. It kept connecting me to myself even deeper. That's gratitude to me. It's this constant flow of energy and being able to say, oh, okay, how do I define this energy? What box am I putting this in today?
And to me, I would go to say that it's just identifying the space that you're in.
Yeah.
Not that you are ever so happy or everything's perfect, but I'm just identifying that, I'm with Black Boys Joy. I launched the candle line, and it's been slow and steady. Somebody asked me it's slow and steady. There's no I don't have this amazing story to say, oh, we're selling over 200 candles and I'm missing all of the milestones or the goals that I'm setting. But I sometimes sit back and think, wow, I just shipped some candles to Vegas.
Yeah.
I shipped candles to Michigan or California. My stamp or my presence, a part of my gift or part of my creation has gone to somewhere else, so it makes me think about, I'm not sure if you heard that phrase, your ancestors' wildest dream.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is that I have family members that have never gone to some places that I've gone. I went to Alaska 2 years ago. You know, I wasn't there long, but
It's
I'm
a
grateful.
experience you had that someone else hasn't had, and and someone else in your family or someone else in your circle literally lived through you having that experience.
Yes, and that's just where I'm, identifying even throughout COVID, throughout what's happening is how I show up, because how I show up and how I show out impacts my tribe. We've had this great conversation, and being able to touch somebody, somebody. I'm gonna have to get my mouse, but somebody just said, "This is awesome content. Grateful." Robert said that. My brother-in-law said that again. And Gary said, he has great energy, positive outlook. I imagine his music is what it says.
Oh,
But
thank you, Gary.
people throughout the world, that what if you couldn't touch them?
Yeah.
Like but you did it. You
Yeah.
touched that many more people, and so and that's just what's beautiful is that. So when you talk about that California, I know that's the background or the cover. That's part of your cover art for this project. It does give me that California vibe. Like you could just be riding down, the freeway with the top down, and just I'm grateful. Like
Yeah. Yeah. One of my friends said that he literally turned the whole album on while he was taking a road trip. He was like, "This is perfect to ride down the road, like the entire project." But yeah, I'm trying to be, my intention. I'm being more intentional. This is gonna sound crazy, but I'm trying to be more intentional about my intention, if that makes sense.
okay.
Especially when it comes to creating and what I'm putting out into the world. I really have kind of disconnected from this idea that, well, if you're not on the level of Beyonce, no one will ever know what legacy you leave behind. And I'm like, that's not real. That's
Right.
not real. So I need to be leaving the legacy I want to leave behind right now. I need to be creating that now. I need to be intentional about that now. There's
Mhm.
well, once I get to that point, once I really get on, once I really whatever, like I had to stop talking like that because that used to be how I used to talk. And then I realized that was how I was creating, not just artistically, but like that was what I was creating in my life. It was like, okay, well, once I reach this threshold, that's when I'll understand patience. That's when I'll understand.
You were setting what they call glass ceilings for yourself. You were
Yeah,
setting.
yeah. So I'm really grateful that this music and that song are a manifestation of kind of this new mindset that I have.
So what would be your, hey Travis, thank you for joining. You can catch us, restream it. We'll be restreaming it. Um, what would be the biggest way that you frame well, let me ask this question first before I say that. What's your favorite song of all times that you've written, that you sing?
Oh man, favorite song of all time that I've written?
Forget anybody else right now. We're talking about you.
Oh man. My mama watching this, she just texted me, "I'm so proud of you, black man." I live for those things though.
Hey mama, we're proud of you both mamas.
I live for that. Favorite song that I ever wrote. That's hard. I mean, it would be between Grateful and Black Boy Joy, honestly. Those
Okay.
are two songs that I feel like really are like they just resonate. They're songs that I feel really, really connected to. Black Boy Joy is a song that I really, really felt like I was onto something when I wrote that song.
Mm.
And then it kind of like, I started seeing it everywhere. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the author of whatever. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying we were all, whoever was, everybody started vibrating on that level, on that frequency of this idea that men should be able to own our joy and our jovial nature and our happiness, we were all vibrating on that at the same time. And I was tapped into that energy that was going around when I wrote that song. And so that's probably one of my favorite songs. And then Grateful is just a space that it represents newness. It represents something transcendent for me right now. So those would probably be, I'm sorry, I couldn't pick one. I had to pick two.
Well, I mean, that's good. And the reason why I asked that is because I'm learning now. I can't celebrate me unapologetically. If I can't vote for me first, then who else gonna vote? It's like if you can't know just where else you gonna go?
Yes,
And so that's why I asked that question. Like, what would be your favorite out of all the songs that you've written and things like that?
Yeah, you challenged me just now to do that more, because I that's not something that that's another area of opportunity for me to grow in. I don't always sit back and take stock of the things that I've done and celebrate them for what they are. I do not do that a lot. And I thank you for allowing me that moment to have this, to do that right here.
Because I'm quite sure if I had said, who's your favorite artist or who's
I would have that for you, no problem. Like, when you asking me about me, I'm like, oh, me, But that's because I've been, what we were talking about earlier, like I've been conditioned to think that humility means, to diminish oneself, to, shrink a little bit. And so that's how I look at when I'm celebrating myself, I'm doing like this. But when I'm celebrating the people, I'm like, yes.
Yep. You tearing the roof off, you jumping off, but you think about yourself, you're like, well, I could have done this different.
Yeah.
Right? That's not how I envisioned, but yeah. I wanna there's another comment, Travis Wells, great question. I don't know if you have any feedback you want to share. I'm a songwriter, but it's hard for me to get music and hard to get music out there from working with producers and singers. But I did catch the part about not being an engineer, neither am I, LOL, but I know how do you get work out, and people you work with don't ever match your drive and love for the music. How do you deal with that? So I give that's what he says, like, you're not an engineer, but you can go in and do your engineering work. How do you get people to match your drive and your energy and your love?
I don't. So I don't know how to actually answer that question. Honestly, I started creating for myself out of necessity. I wasn't connecting with everybody. The people I was working with, I wasn't connecting with. We had different visions, and for me, my professional experiences on a business level where I was not connecting with people, moved me into a space that influenced the way I create. That was a very politically correct answer.
Very.
Myself.
I got where you're going, but that's fine.
but I have had working relationships that did not always pan out to great creative relationships, and which as a result were not great working relationships long term, because we just had different visions, and so I've always been very, even though I may not have been very clear about early on in my career, I should say, even though I wasn't very clear about what I wanted and maybe who I was in my music, like my sound, my this, my that, I was always very clear about what I didn't want.
Okay.
And so whenever I was matched with a vision that I felt like was too far from my vision, usually I would have to sever those ties. And I had, again, very specific experiences in this business where that just I could have allowed that to be very traumatic. Opportunities that didn't see the light of day and things that didn't come to fruition because we just weren't vibrating on the same drive level or the same love for music level. But I started creating out of necessity. I was like, okay, I have to be my own producer because I'm realizing that I'm not very right now, I'm not in a very trustworthy place with allowing my vision, sharing my vision with someone else who's not going to take care of it like it's their baby. I need somebody who's going to match that. And then in me realizing, once I was able to acknowledge that for myself, I realized that, oh, well, the reality is, ain't nobody really going to be taking care of your baby the way you take care of your baby, right? Think about an actual child.
Yeah.
Like, if you are an uncle or an aunt, you taking care of your sister's child, niece or nephew, you take care of them to the extent that you can until it's like, okay, time to give it back. You're like, you know you're going to give that thing back. So no one's ever going to take care of your business. No one's ever going to take care of your brand. No one ever is going to take care of your situation more than you will, because it's your vision.
Right. And I think to that is, you can't, and you said it earlier, and I'm going to re-say it, don't get frustrated by or attached, I'm going to say both, don't get attached to the expectation or the outcome, but don't get frustrated with others, and keep creating. And like you said, you created out of your necessity. So instead of waiting on somebody, for me, I'm kind of learning that too as I navigate through what I'm doing. Like, well, okay, I'll just figure it out myself. YouTube, Google will be a best friend. And not that you're faking until you make, but this is what I got. This is if I keep being present and constant and staying in the flow of what I'm doing, then it's gonna. I believe, nobody else has to believe it, but I believe it's like a mirror, and what I project and what I'm putting out there is going to come back to me. So if I'm putting out there hard work ethic and that I believe in myself and I love this, then people will match that energy. But if I'm low energy, it's not happening. So yeah. I think that would be the thing for Travis. That
yes, Travis.
Yeah, he has another question for you. And I'm gonna just put it there, and then I think we should. I can say, reach out to Orlando.
I'm looking at. Okay, wait.
Well, I'm gonna just be straightforward and close my mouth. Don't get fed. How do I get a song for you to demo?
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you this, Travis. Right now, I am a label artist for Disney Music Group, so I'm not able to accept demos, which is why I was able to create my own, because I didn't have to worry about collaboration. And that right now is so I have some different obligations that don't allow me to do that right now. But send me an email, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you. So, I admire Travis for even saying that.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna get fed. Like
right.
You have the same energy.
Till you say something.
Yeah, and if we didn't address it, or if you said no, without saying what you talked about being Disney and so forth, he could have walked around with the attitude, not say attitude, but he didn't perception that you didn't want to work with him versus you're contractually not able to do it right now.
Yeah,
and people don't get that. Like they feel like if you don't give them a chance, or just because they know you're connected, put me on. It's like you're supposed to do this because we've had. It's not that I don't want to. Even with the brand, I've had people talk about the show and they should do this and do that, and I'm just like, I get you. The time will come, but
right
now,
people seeing that, and it's something beautiful about other people seeing your vision and being inspired by it and going, man, like that's so great. You should do this. You know what you should do, Ryan? You should start doing this, and it's like, okay, thank you. In due time.
But I used to try to do it, but now I'm just like, look, you're not gonna get me out there.
Right. It's like, let me take my time with it. Or there may be other extenuating circumstances, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's like, um, you know, this idea that is a no, or, like you were saying, it's not as simple as like, oh, he didn't respond or he didn't say anything, so he must not want to. It's
Right.
like you never know what other variables are in play. But shout out to Travis for, it's that type of energy that's going to get you on, man. It's like taking that, continuing to put that energy out there.
And even in that, you never know who's watching. You may connect with somebody else that may be like, you may be able to put them on to somebody else, but just the information and the energy, man. I'm just so appreciative. Like,
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I love Black Boy Joy, the apparel. Y'all, when I saw his t-shirt line, you got to get Black Boy Joy shirts. You've got to get, he's got men, women collection.
Yeah.
Black Boy Joy is just about the male perspective, or the Black male perspective. Mm-hmm. It's about just living in that unapologetic joy. It's Black is unapologetic. It's you, and so support, because you got t-shirts, you got I've got a couple of them.
So it's the way I describe it is a lifestyle brand that is specifically centered on street style apparel. That includes t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. We have bomber jackets, crop tops.
Crop tops, okay.
We got beanies, book bags, cell phone cases. So I'm trying to move more into accessories as well when it comes to the line. But there's a plethora of options. There's a couple of different graphics. There's a lot of what we do is messaging. So it's like messaging on the actual shirts, as well as graphics. Mm-hmm. We are officially trademarked. So there's that, which I celebrate.
It's on there.
So yeah, it's a really, and one of the things I'm learning now, especially in light of everything that's happened, is that I'm able to use it as a platform to do. I was just before this year, I was promoting it as clothing line and accessory line and a streetwear lifestyle brand, and it's this year, especially with everything that's happened, it's opened me up to this idea that like, oh, I can use this as a platform to highlight other brands, other small businesses, and other Black-owned businesses, and put and spread that love, spread that energy around, and highlight other organizations that are doing powerful things in the community. So.
Speaking of highlighting, you early this year, you were part of your proceeds, if not all, were going to specific nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, I donated to so in the month of June, anything that was coming in was going to Know Your Rights Camp, Color Change, and I believe Until Freedom. Organizations that I partner with.
So you're not only doing this lifestyle brand or lifestyle apparel to build the platform, but you're also bringing exposure to the nonprofits, and so you're not just a singer and songwriter, but you're also trying to change the world by giving back.
In whatever way that I can. I think I got so caught up on this idea that I needed to do it in this extravagant way. I needed to be giving back and telling myself that, once the brand gets here, then I'll really be able to give back to my community. And it's like, no, you can start doing that now.
Yeah.
What is it hurting you to do it now? It really is. It really, and now it's something that I'm perspective. How do I continue to do this every quarter? How can I continue to be making this type of effort every quarter with regards to where proceeds are going and how merch is being donated. Maybe I can be donating things to organizations if they're, looking for clothing, or if they're looking to, maybe they're doing a special something and they need a prize. I'd love to be a part of the goodie bag that you're putting together. So, my mind is just open to new ways to be connected. This idea of community is, not just an idea anymore. I think it's become very, very real to me that no, I can be doing more now. I can't. I have the resources. I have a platform to be able to do that. Why not?
And do what you can while you can, because you never know. And that's a legacy. I think that's a beautiful legacy that you're leaving, and so impactful. And I appreciate you. Our time is up. I'm so enjoying this conversation.
Thank you. We 2 hours. I love it.
Our time is, as far as hopefully we'll get you back on the show another time. But I so appreciate and love everything that you're doing. And mom that's watching, thank you, Mama, for watching. Mamas that support.
I know.
My family and friends, all you guys that are continuously supporting Black Boy Joy Conversations, please, please, please support Black Boy Joy Apparel and this man's project. When summer comes, he's got some other projects, but when summer comes, that's if you ain't felt like summer has not come yet, go get the CD.
Check it out.
Yeah, and it's on Tidal, it's on Amazon, it's on Spotify, it's on Pandora, it's on
Apple Music.
So yeah, there is no excuse not to be able to support. And it's this type of support is, we shouldn't wait till we come up before we try to support somebody. Let's support one another. And so, so what else is next for you besides the release of this project, and what's next, and how can people stay in touch?
At Orlando Dixon on social media everywhere. At Black Boy Joy Apparel on social media everywhere. OrlandoDixon.com is my official website. Blackboyjoy.storenvy.com is the official website for the clothing line. What else is coming up? I have some things that I'm working on, not ready to let out the bag just yet, but honestly, right now, continuing to put great, positive, productive energy out into the atmosphere. That's kind of how when you sent me the flyer for this, that's how I framed this. We're about to have a discussion about positive, thought-provoking conversation and putting great energy into the world. And I honestly, right now, I'm making that a point, making that a priority. And I think that's enough right now. Just me figuring out how to continue to put that energy out there from a day to day, how to keep myself centered. Like I said, I have some things that I'm working on for myself. The next wave, there is a follow up to When Summer Comes that is being worked on.
Okay.
But I'm kind of waiting to tease that until the right time.
Now, you gonna do a video for any of these, or
visuals or something I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about doing visuals for the next thing I'm about to roll out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it. Again, when you're when you're your own creative director, you basically are like, I have to step out of, and it's very, very, when you play multiple roles like that, I'm sure you know with Black Boy Joy Conversations, when you play in multiple roles like that, you got to kind of step outside of what you would, of how you would think. I have to think like how a creative director would be thinking, how a marketing director would be thinking. And honestly, a lot of the work that I'm able to do now as a performing artist in a group with Disney is it allows me exposure to things on a high level with different people, different entities, and different spaces who think like that. So just having that exposure and being around that energy has influenced how I run my own business and how I do my own thing, which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, I'm toying with a couple different ideas. I got sometimes when you're creative, you have so many things in your head, and just trying to figure out how to figuring out how to put it out on paper. I'm
Yes.
get disciplined with this idea of, and my mom always said this to me: write the vision down, Orlando, make it plain, write it down so that it's actually tangible. Because if it's just in your head, then it's a bunch of thoughts swirling around. So I'm trying to be disciplined with going, okay, what's my plan? How am I going to roll this out? What do I think about this? What will be my challenges? So yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful, because I'm the same way. Like, I have to it be swimming in your head, and you just gotta, like, let me get it out so that I can keep it moving.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for joining us with Black Boy Joy Conversations again. We have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. He's been a great, gracious guest, and I'm looking forward to what's to come, and hopefully we get to no expectations. Hopefully get to see each other in DC at the march. If not, listen, mask it up and be safe and keep going.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all for y'all love. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night. And remember to live and love in your Black Boy Joy.